Can you design and build a star rating component like the ones you see on Amazon or Etsy? Do you think AI can build it? Well, we're about to design it and code it right here, and then throw it at GPT to see if it can do it, and then compare the results. I was able to find a decent set of requirements on frontendpro.dev that we can use to build this, and then take those same requirements and throw them at the latest LLM to see how it does. Now we're going to this site for the requirements. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. They just provide a great set of front-end challenges along with a great set of requirements per challenge that we can use to build these products, and then take those requirements and easily copy paste them into the latest LLM and get the results. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, as we're going to be working through many of these challenges, both manually and generating them with the latest LLM. Now let's head over to the computer and start coding. All right, so here we are at frontendpro.dev. We're at our star rating component. And let's just go ahead and take a look at the images they've provided. So it looks like it's your standard star component. They give you 5 stars. And if you click a different amount of stars, you get a different feedback text for each click. So it looks like each one has a different response depending on what stars you clicked. So the star rating component should display a set of stars that can be clicked or hovered over to select a rating. The component should be customizable with an option to change the number of stars to be displayed. When the user clicks on the star rating, the rating should be updated and the corresponding message should be displayed. The component should ensure the hovering over the 3rd star after selecting the 4th star highlights only the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd star. Okay, so if we have those selected, we hover over, whichever ones we hover over, it should update the state. So kind of an intermediate state there while hovering. Show the hover state of all the elements. Okay, the component should be responsive and displayed display correctly on different screen sizes. They didn't give us any images of different screen sizes of what they would like that to look like. Yeah, we might just ignore that requirement. Make this landing page look as close to the design as possible. We will match this component in terms of functionality, but I'm not going to dig in into the specific styles and get those matched up. Okay, so we'll have our rating component, and I think according to the requirements, we need to be able to take in the number of stars essentially. So a rating number, that'll be, I believe, our only prop, and the purpose of this component will be to house all the states and logic as needed. So that's the whole component. Inside the component, there's a card. So the card will be some generic component. It'll just essentially be a pass-through. Inside the card, we'll probably have some title component. That'll probably just be like some header. Maybe it might be like a card title or something. We have these stars here. So that's the actual input that we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and call this rating input. This rating input will need to know the rating number, so the number of stars, the current rating, right? So if we're at 3 stars, we'll pass it in and it'll render with 3 stars. The rating number, if we need 10 stars, of course it'll be 10. Next, we'll need a on rating change. So when you click on a star, we need to be able to pass that function in and update the overall logic or the overall state of our component. Okay, I think that'd be good for a rating input. And then let's go to the bottom part. Is this kind of dynamic feedback? So based off the rating, for now we'll call this like a rating feedback, right? And this just needs to know the current rating. Okay, and this looks pretty good. So one thing that we also have to consider, the component should be customizable with an option to change the number of stars to the display. Why is that something we need to consider? So imagine today I have scoot this down. I have a 3 out of 5 rating. But then tomorrow, let's say the world changes to 10 stars. And if I originally saved my rating as a 3, we'd move over here to 3, and that'd be 3 out of 10. And that obviously is not the same ratio. And so it would be showing wrong data. So this is something we need to design for. And instead of our rating being an integer, we can just save it as a percentage instead. If we start with 5 stars and I give it a 3-star rating, the percentage of that would be 60 out of 100, right? 5 divided by 100, or 100 divided by 5 is 20. So each star would give us a 20% increase on the percentage. So a 3 out of 5 translates to a 60 over 100 percentage. And then tomorrow we go to 10 stars, right? Or any number. And then our component needs to be smart enough to know, okay, this is a 60% rating. So 60% of 10, which we know what 60% of 10 is. We're all smart. That's obviously 6 out of 10. But we need the code to make that conversion. So we have 60, and how would we do that, right? We all learned how to cross multiply, right? So 60 times 10 is 600 is equal to 100 times x. And so you divide each by 100, like so. That gets us 6. So the answer is 6, and that would give us a 6 over 10. So we would show 6 stars. So now we can account for that, right? At any given time, if the number of stars change, by keeping a percentage instead of an actual number for the current number of stars, we can adjust for any number of stars coming in. So with that being said, I think we're in a pretty good place to start coding. Okay, so we've got IntelliJ WebStorm running here, or I guess JetBrains WebStorm. So if we remember back to the design, our first component was the overall rating component that's going to house all the logic. One thing that I've already provided is I went ahead and built us a card component. Pretty simple, nothing crazy there. I give us a card title, and then along with everything, I went ahead and got some decent styles provided for us. All right, so first things first is this rating component. We'll name it rating. We'll need to get the props in there here in a second. See, did I do most of that right? Maybe. Here we go. Interface, we'll have a rating, and then the input needed to be the rating number. Rating input number might be a little bit better. Props. those props. That's the type coming in. Rating input is what's going to be coming in there. And then we'll need a state to keep the state of what we selected. Right. And if this was in production somewhere, of course, your current rating would be coming from a database somewhere. So that logic would all happen in here as well. And maybe even the rating input. But for now, we don't have to consider any of that because we don't have that. Okay, so next, let's talk about that rating. Look, IntelliJ wants to autocomplete us here. Okay, so we can go ahead and do that. Kind of don't want any of that. So we're going to be given a value. That value will be a number, and we'll be setting that value. And we need to do some normalization here, right? So let's see. When we set the number, we hit, say, 3 out of 5. Value is going to come back as 3. So we can do all the normalization within this rating component to keep it in one spot. So if we do our cross multiplying stuff, that'll be the value times 100 divided by the rating input number. And then that should give us the percentage, the overall percentage in our state. So there's that. We also need to normalize it to the number of stars selected going into our component. So this is multiplying in the other direction. Rating norm is going to be equal to the current rating multiplied by the rating input this will be divided by 100. So this will be like we're at 60%. Total rating input number is 5, so we need to get 3. Right. So if we're currently at 60 times 5, that's 300. Divided by 100 would be 3. So the rating norm is, right, the final number of stars we need to show. And then on change, we want to convert back to 100. It might be best to like encapsulate that logic somewhere else, but for this example, we'll go ahead and throw this here. Okay, now let's actually do this business. We have our card component. We'll have the card title. We had our rating input, and then below that we have our rating text. Cool. So this is roughly how we want it. We're normalizing. We got our function to handle on change. Now let's go to the rating input. Okay, so we're at our rating input. Don't know why it wanted to autocomplete like that. This is of type functional component. Rating props. Okay, so it auto-completed in the worst kind of way. Port interface prompts. And the prompts we had back in our rating component be rating input. Is a number. Current rating, which is a number. And then on rating change, which is a function. Take these prompts, throw them in here, and we can get started on the code. Oh, I copy pasted that in the wrong spot. So, rating input. Okay, so the first thing is we need a local state for this to account for when a user is hovering over the stars. We need to update just this component when it's hovering over something. So we'll say something called local focus. Set local focus. This will be a number. And then the original input for that should be the current rating. I believe so. Because back in here, current rating is the normalized number for the actual rating input. Yep. So that makes sense. Okay, now we need the actual stars to be displayed. I'm gonna call it something like entities, and it's gonna be the rating input, I believe. Rating entity component, something like that. And then each one of those will be the star, right? So we need to go make, I feel like we can make another component in this file, rating entity, and handle it that way. Okay, what will this look like? Well, for starters, it'll just be a div. Or an interface. Entity props. We'll have is highlighted. And then we'll have an on select, just a void. And then to account for the local, we can do like an on hover, which will be something like a value number and return void. So down here, we iterate, create an array, rating entities, and then if the current rating is 3, based off the index, we can tell that it's highlighted. So it is highlighted. When it goes outside of 3, highlighted will be false. When you select it, we need to fire off the onSelected function that will pass in here. That makes sense. And then on hover, if we're hovering over it, we need to get the local focus information updated to account for whichever one we're hovering. On click will be on select, and then Let's see, we need the hover, so on mouse enter, the on hover, we'll do something like, I don't know, pass in 0, then on mouse leave. Just do something like 1, essentially just toggling. I don't think it's super important at the moment which one's which. Then is highlighted. Class name will be the base. Then we need, if I could type correctly, if it's highlighted, ooh, that was nice. Does IntelliJ know? It does know. Cool. So if it's highlighted, we add this style. If not, don't add the style. What is this saying here? Oh, it's a typo. We don't need these either. Okay, so now let's go see if we can get this crap to work. Rating entity. Go back here. Fix the current file. Is highlighted. I'm not getting any. Oh, because this somehow got copy pasted incorrectly. Is highlighted. What was else? On select. Select on rating change. So that's good. On hover. Set focus. If I is less than the local focus. So yeah, if the local focus, if I'm hovering 5, that'll be all of them, because it'll go up to 4, or the index goes up to 4. On hover, if there is a value, set local focus value. If I hover over it, it goes to 0, I plus 1. Else, if there is a value, which would be 1, this would be at the current rating. So that's a little backwards. What is this saying? Void undefined. So that's wrong. Import React. Let's go to the rating. It's the rating input number. Value, number void. Okay, so it looks like we just needed to add some imports we were missing. We can also get this star I found. There we go. So let's see. We can currently hover over everything. And it looks like when I click, it's not getting saved. So on select here, what is this saying? I thought I fixed this already. On rating change. On select. Oh, it doesn't really look like. I actually forgot that part. So this was actually incorrect. Right? On rating change needs to be I plus 1. So the rating input only knows of the ratings in the format of the total count given, so 5 or 10 stars. All the normalization happens outside, so that makes sense why we would do that. So if we come back over here, now we can select and it goes away. Or it doesn't go away, it stays. So we can hover over, it updates, and it will update as we hover and select different ones. Perfect. If I go ahead and change the number to 10, we now see 10 stars. And if we go to, let's see, half of 10 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's 6. So that's 6 out of 10. That's a 60%. We can go back to 5, hit save, cause a re-render, and look, now we're at 3 out of 5. So we're somewhat handling future changes or future updates to our rating component if the world goes to 10 stars instead of 5. Now let's tackle the rating text. So before we get to the rating text component, I want to have a rating text utils file that will manage the selection of the strings, those feedback strings, and house the strings in a little bit better way than just having them float around in our rating text component. It'll be easier to manage, and it makes the code a little bit cleaner. So instead of having me type all this out, and y'all could watch me type all that out, I'm just going to go ahead and jump to the conclusion here. So we have this feedback object. Keys are, the ratings. They only gave us 5 values back for each rating in that 5-star rating. So we have 5 key value pairs here. We have a type feedback key. This is just going to be a union of these types, right? Then the next thing we have here is our ordered keys. So this is just your string array object keys of feedback. So this is these values in a string array. And then feedback key from rating. This will provide the key from the rating given. Once again, we have this logic kind of repeated. The cross multiplication, that gets us an index. And then from that index, we get a key out of it. And yeah, that pretty much summarizes this up. Now let's go see how we would use this in our rating text. Let's start our rating text component. FC, we need to get the prop out there. Copy paste that in there. That'll be the rating, it'll be a number. And back here, we made the design decision for the rating to be the percentage. Okay, so that's why in the utils I did that. That's right. So if there is no rating, right? So if we refresh this page over here, is it going to crash on us? It may crash. So let's copy that out now. So back to rating text. We refreshed. We're at nothing, and we should show no text. So we should return null. And then we'll have the rating level, which this could be the feedback. It could be of type feedback key. Then we can do feedback key from rating. Throw in our rating, and this will get us the low to high value, right? We have high, medium, low, highest, lowest types, right? So that's the type we're going to be expecting to get back from here based off the rating given. A percentage is passed in, and from there we get the actual key based off that percentage. And that means we now can return. Okay, so need one more input. So if there's no rating, return nothing. That makes sense. When we click on something, the component will re-render, throwing in the rating, bypassing this first condition. We'll go into our util method. That'll return the util, or that will return the rating level. And then we have our object and the level, which gets us our message. You could probably do some more refactoring and encapsulate all of this logic into our utility function and reducing the size of this component, but it's good enough, right? Let's ship it. Fix that once more. And now we have our rating text. And we've come pretty much full circle, I believe. We're sorry to hear that you had a, oh, there's a typo. Bad experience. That lives in my rating utils. We apologize for the inconvenience. Yeah, your experience. Blah, blah, blah. Thank you for your feedback. And so on and so forth. Excellent. Cool. So it's a little bit of a styling issue. Let me look into why that's the case. Okay. Just a little bit of a styling issue, but now it's all centered. And there we go. We can expand it. And I believe that's all of our requirements there. Let's verify everything. Should display stars that can be clicked, hovered. So that's good. We handle increasing the number of stars. When a user clicks on a star rating, the rating should be updated. Corresponding message, yep. The hovering logic is sound. We completed that. They didn't provide any sizes. But, you know, UX can come back to us and tell us what we did wrong. I think it looks pretty close. We went with our own styling options. Pretty much the bare bones stuff. And yeah, so I say this is functionally working the way it should, based off the requirements. Yeah, let's go see how ChatGPT can handle this. Okay, so what do we have here? I'm saying you are a super senior front-end developer with 20 plus years of experience. Use the best practices known to React development to accomplish this goal. I have the following requirements to make a star rating component. The requirements that we were given, right? So we're on the even playing field. I've added an image of what it looks like. I've added the different feedback text so that it knows what to do. And I gave it some more background information. We're in a React 19 application. We have our project up and running, so all you need to do is provide the components needed to successfully build the star rating component. You must develop this with the React and TypeScript. You will need to determine the best CSS to use. It can be simple, but needs to be functional. And then component goes here. Okay. Let's let it do its thing. Okay, and we are back. It's got us some code, so let's go ahead and copy and paste it. Okay, we got it copy pasted, and this is what it did. It looks like it actually did a really good job. At first glance, we have our stars. Looks like the hovering works. Looks like this updates as promised, and it hovers pretty well, and it does everything it's supposed to. So let's select 3 And let's see if it updates based off of the total. So let's go to 10. So we've went to 10 stars. It looks like it grew outside the box a bit. And the stars didn't update on a re-render here. The text seems to be updating correctly. But yep, they didn't account for changing the stars, which, I mean, how could you? It had no idea to prep for that scenario, but we certainly did. Let's look at some of the code. So let's look at here. It made a type. So I handed it this text here, this here, and I don't know how much that influenced it to use an object, but it went ahead and did that. So that's fine. It built the object a little bit different than I did. Of course, there's the types. And we did it a different way, but it's just handling based off the ratio. Essentially the same. A different way to get there. Total number of stars, that's good. Rating, set rating. Has the hover value. And it looks to have everything in one file, which sure, that's fine. It wasn't told to split it up. All right. It used a button here, which we probably should have used a button as well. One thing it did is it used its own SVG, and it built the actual points of a star. No way am I doing that. Set the class names of field. So set hover value when we enter. And interesting. So it put the mouse leave on the div, and it set the mouse enter on the button. So that's an interesting. It did do the same thing we did with array dot from. Seems fine. So this seems a little weird. I might suggest that goes on the same element. Get feedback level. Yeah, kinda. I shouldn't have given it the low, median, and highest. I think just to see if it would have done it a different way. But I think copy pasting the low, highest, median, like the levels, it did it in a similar fashion. Yeah, so it encapsulated the logic a little bit better too, which we discussed that. Feedback text, class feedback. If rating is greater than 0. Cool. So yeah, I think it accomplished this. Some minor issues here, some minor comments I would leave to it, but overall, I would say in one shot, ChatGPT was able to accomplish the build of this product with some minor issues.